Good morning. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Good morning, beautiful people. We brought you snow today. How awesome is that? Well, welcome back and thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Diversity Forum 2022. What a dynamic day we had yesterday with a wide range of knowledgeable speakers and meaningful sessions. I had an opportunity to go to many of them, and so I was truly filled on yesterday. So if you were here yesterday, raise your hand. Okay, good. So I would love to hear, if you will indulge me, a little bit about how you were impacted on yesterday. So please call out a word or a couple words to describe your impact. We're just gonna, if the spirits hit you, just say something. Talk back to me really quick. What did you gain from yesterday? What sort of impact? Give me a word or two. Anyone? Insight. Empowered. Love it. Empathy. Love it. Cast, yes, that was a powerful session, yeah. Student activism. Woo! Was one of the things we heard from Casey. So listen, that is awesome. I mean, I love to hear that you are all able to take away something from here. You know, what is learned here leaves here, and that's what we are here for in community, to learn, to grow together, to empower the spaces that we live and work in on a day-to-day basis. And so, I'm grateful to be in community with you all here again on day 2. I would like to remind everyone this year's forum, the theme of remembering, the power of remembering, claiming our legacies to imagine new futures. And as you continue into day 2, remember the call for us to take a deeper look into the histories that have shaped us and shaped our communities in which we live and work. Moving forward, today's conversations will focus on arts and activism, kind of my favorite for those who know me outside of here. I moonlight as an artist, as a singer, and some other things. And so super excited in weaving that with academia and how that informs and shapes us and our communities. I will now introduce you to our first speaker of the day, a dear colleague of mine who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he knows this, for his work and for his brilliance and for the impact he has made on this campus at UW-Madison and in the broader community. Aaron Birdbear is a citizen of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Diné tribes, enrolled in the 3 affiliate tribes of the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, and has served as the Director of Tribal Relations at UW-Madison since 2019. In 2003, Birdbear helped develop the UW-Madison First Nations Cultural Landscape Tour, a place-based experiential education tour of American Indian landmarks on the campus of UW-Madison. He co-leads the Our Shared Future initiative that serves to honor the Native presence on campus, including the new Our Shared Future marker on Bascom Hill that recognizes the land as the ancestral home of the Ho-Chunk Nation. Join me in welcoming Aaron Birdbear as we commence with the Native Nations tribute.
Well, good morning and hello. My name is Aaron Birdbear once again, and I'm the inaugural Director of Tribal Relations here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a position kind of equivalent to state relations and federal relations as we attempt to help the Wisconsin idea reach all corners of the state and the world. After 23 years here at the institution, I'll be retiring this December, so I'm excited to be getting on to my next phase of life. It's been wonderful to see our institution grow and learn from Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous perspectives. The First Nations Cultural Landscape Tour really helped kind of make an awareness of the very specialness of the place that we call our institution today. And not just kind of the creative developments that come out of our knowledge and the collaborations we do as an institutional community, but the very place that we get to be in. The Ho-Chunk talk about the transformational power of this place, and that it sings to all who listen. And so hopefully we're listening well to think about how this transformational place can take us to the next generation of a place that really thinks about the wellness and it thinks about the care that we should provide for ourselves and for the land around us. Indigenous peoples of the Great Lakes describe land as first teacher, that the living world around us are our teachers and relatives. and we think about the kinship-based relationship to land that indigenous peoples hold for this place, it's one thing to think about trees as a kind of commodity that we can profit from. It's another thing to think about trees as a relative that we learn from. And so I think it's for us to start thinking deeply about settler colonialism and the role it plays in our institution. For those who don't know, settler colonialism is a process. It's not an event, it's a process. And the organizing principle and goal of all settler colonial societies is replacement. Now, we hear replacement talked about by a political party in the United States, but that's not the same thing. The organizing principle and goal of all settler colonial societies is replacement. And it's why we don't understand the specialness of the place where we're at today, but we're learning to do that. We're pulling back the colonial veneer, this thin, kind of durable layer that kind of focuses on the achievement of European and European Americans at the expense of obscuring the 12,000-year human story of this place we now call home. One way to understand settler colonialism, if you look at your neighbors, can you define two words for me? Can you define the words Wisconsin? Can you define the word Mendota? You know, settler colonial societies don't ask our names to have deep meanings. They're often random and kind of created haphazardly. The word Mendota was created for a land speculation brochure to entice settlement into the new state of Wisconsin. And so it's a made-up word, and then three other words were derived from it: Monona, Kaganza, Wabisa, Yahara. They're all gibberish made up for a land speculation brochure. The word Wisconsin is likely derived from a Menominee word, a good place to live, but there's a contested history about that word as well. And so it just kind of reminds us that we have to pull back the veneer to understand this place, not in the kind of narratives of Europeans and European Americans, but through the worldview of the Ho-Chunk, the Menominee, the Ojibwe Nations, the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of the Mohican, the Brotherton Indians, the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. And so I ask us to think deeply about interrupting and arresting settler colonialism as we go forward. When I first came to campus, we kind of saw the impacts of settler colonialism. I came to campus and there was an admissions brochure that had a superimposed figure added to it to kind of a manufactured diversity. An African American named Diallo Shabazz was added to the admissions brochure to kind of showcase how diversity functioned at our institution, and that was a really illumination of where we were at 22 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that similarly in that period of time, corporations stopped recruiting from the College of Engineering across the street because our graduates were not performing well in multicultural or international teams. And so we recognized the value of teaching people to appreciate other cultures and learn to work across difference. And I think we've made great strides as an institution in the last 23 years, and focusing on the indigeneity of this place as a kind of a prerequisite for fulfilling the mission of the institution is a really important framework to consider. So I thank everyone for inviting me today to share little words and the specialness of this place. I'm thankful that we're growing in leaps and strides with the creation of Day-Jope Residence Hall, the Indigenous Student Center, and now really thinking deeply about the needs of Native American nations that we can hopefully fulfill in collaboration with them. And so with that, I say on Wisconsin, and Wa'inagin in the Ho-Chunk language. Wa'inagin. Thank you to all of you who've contributed to the well-being and welfare of indigenous peoples and Native nations. Have a great day.
I am truly honored to have had the opportunity to work with Aaron Burt-Bear, first as our time briefly overlapped in the School of Education here at Wisconsin, and in our current work, and have personally learned a lot from him and the work that's been done on this campus, and vow to continue the work of Indigenous education and how we can create and sustain lasting, meaningful partnerships with Native nations as we strive to do our best work. My colleague here is going to be retiring soon. And I'm happy for him. While I'm happy for him, it's a sad occasion because the legacy and his work here has been so impactful, but it just charges us to continue the great work that has been done. And so we vow to continue that work, and thank you tremendously for your service to this institution. We are all the better because of you and your work. So at this time, we will hear from our Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Provost John Karl Scholz. Provost Scholz is not only a leader here at UW-Madison, but he's also an internationally respected economist whom I've had the pleasure of brain wrestling with on a number of issues. Have a tremendous respect for that man. He's been tremendously impactful in his role as provost and his role as dean and as professor here. Provost Scholz oversees all academic program and budget planning involving 13 schools and colleges, faculty and staff development, and personnel matters, as well as oversight over enrollment management, including undergraduate recruitment and admissions, student financial aid and registrar, teaching and learning, diversity and inclusion, outreach, extension, and public media, information technology, libraries, international affairs. It's a really big job. I am so grateful. Provost Scholz has served not only this institution, but as Deputy Assistant Secretary for Tax Analysis at the U.S. Treasury Department. He was a senior staff economist at the Council of Economic Advisors, and he directed the Institute for Research on Poverty here at UW and was the Dean of LNS for about 6 years prior to assuming this role. And for those who are not familiar with LNS, it's the size, literally, of Northwestern, so that's a big job as well. Without further ado, please welcome my friend, colleague, and boss, Provost John Karl Scholz.
LaVar, thank you very much for that kind introduction. And a huge thank you to the entire DDEEA team, not only for the enormous effort of putting on this wonderful forum, but for the work that you do day to day, year round, to make UW-Madison a better place for our entire campus community. And good morning to all of you, all who have taken the time out of your very busy lives to join us today. I am really honored to welcome you to day 2 of the Diversity Forum. As I reflected on what to say this morning, I'm going to start by noting just how awkward and humbled I felt to be invited to do this. It's a diversity forum. My experiences don't mirror the experiences and challenges of many others. So think for a moment about my privilege. You can see right away I'm white, I'm male, I'm affluent, I'm very tall. We can count many, many more sources of privilege. And so I'm not here because of any particular brilliance, but rather another privilege that LaVar mentioned. That is that I get to serve campus as provost or chief academic officer. That position grants me the opportunity to share a few thoughts here today. So like all of us, I try my best to use and leverage my privilege to better serve our campus community and our world. Like the microphone I'm speaking into, I try hard to amplify the agendas, ideas, and perspectives of others. So let me tell you about one of the shifts in mindset for campus that has been very important, driven in part by Dr. Charleston. For a long time, I and others on campus would talk about creating a welcoming environment. But Dr. Charleston helped me and others to take on a new perspective, one where we emphasize belonging. Just because I welcome someone into my house, that doesn't necessarily mean they feel at home. Essentially, doesn't a welcome kind of insinuate that the space is mine to grant permissions to occupy, like I'm allowing someone from the outside to enter into what is mine? But when we shift our perspective to think not just about welcoming, but instead belonging, there's no need for someone like me to say, welcome, come on in, make yourself at home. When you belong, you are already home. It's critical for campus to create an environment where all in the community feel they belong. Now, representation is one step to creating that sense of belonging. These two ideas go hand in hand. Representation is not sufficient, but at the same time, belonging can't happen without greater representation. We've made considerable progress diversifying our student body. Vice Provost Derek Kindle and his team at the Division of Enrollment Management have been breaking historic enrollment records these last 2 years. Not only is this year's freshman class the largest in the university's history, it's the most racially diverse in both sheer numbers and percentages. More than 31% are students of color, and more than half of those are from underrepresented groups in higher education. This represents a 50% increase in underrepresented students of color in our freshman class since 2019. Meanwhile, across our entire undergraduate student body, 1 in 5 are first-generation college students. And Bucky's Tuition Promise and the Badger Promise continue to provide support to many of our Wisconsin resident incoming freshmen and transfer students. I'll take a moment to amplify a story from another of our wonderful colleagues, Dean Eric Wilcox in the College of Letters and Science. He told me and the other deans about a recent gathering of a set of L&S students from the Center for Academic Excellence. These outstanding, diverse students noted that they could feel a palpable difference on campus where there were simply more people who looked like them. This is a critical first step in enhancing belonging. We need to make similar progress in diversifying staff and faculty. We are making progress. In just the past 2 years, we've welcomed 80 new faculty of color, including a significant number from groups that have been historically underrepresented on campus. We've also worked to expand our top faculty hiring program. This initiative helps our schools and colleges recruit and hire colleagues who will enhance the department's quality and diversity. Since the initiative's inception in 2018, we have hired 57 new faculty with top support into tenured and tenured track positions across our campus. So I've said quite a bit about representation. We're also working in many different ways to create a greater sense of belonging. One, of course, is the consistent work of DDEEA, Student Affairs, and this Diversity Forum. The deans are doing great work in our schools and colleges on climate and belonging. But to understand where we want to go, it is critical to understand where we are. To understand this, we have administered several climate surveys last year of our students, of our academic and university staff, and through Wisely, our faculty. I want to thank all the people who worked on these surveys. A great deal of thoughtful, creative work and energy has gone into them. There's a breakout session in this year's Diversity Forum focused on the student climate survey. We are awaiting further detailed analysis for the staff survey and Wisely's survey of faculty work life, but let me share just a few highlights. In general, the majority of staff are satisfied with the university, with 73% reporting that they are somewhat or very satisfied with UW-Madison, and 76% reporting they are somewhat or very satisfied with their jobs. 76% of staff also rated their well-being at work as good, very good, or excellent. And the majority of staff reported that their department or work unit is very inclusive or extremely inclusive to all employees. I think these are significant positive findings that we should celebrate. But we also have lingering issues to continue to address. For example, staff who identified as being in an underrepresented group rated the inclusivity of their department or work unit approximately 10 to 15 percentage points lower than those not in an underrepresented group. We also have significant challenges with HIB, hostile and intimidating behavior. Many across campus and in the Provost's office are working on improving training and taking steps to nip HIB before it becomes a major problem and improve processes when HIB does arrive. The summary of results, which you can link to from the URL listed at the bottom of the one-page document that is at each of your tables in the table holders, provide information on anticipated next steps. So I've been here a long time. We as an institution have made progress in becoming a more equitable and inclusive place to study, teach, grow, and thrive. At the same time, we can and must do better. We collectively are on a journey, sometimes maddeningly slow in its progress, sometimes deeply rewarding as we see forward movement. This journey is a reason why events just like this diversity forum are so important and pivotal to our growth, not only as colleagues, but as friends and fellow human beings. So let me say one last thing about this idea of belonging. I believe the following is true. As we as a campus foster a greater sense of belonging and inclusion, it becomes easier to practice grace and empathy. Many in this room have worked so hard for so long to address the intersectional inequities and injustices in our world. Others are just getting started. The fact that we are all at different stages of this journey means that any one of us can misstep and stumble. There will be difficult conversations, and we will make mistakes along the way. The more we succeed in creating a culture of belonging, the easier it will become to give grace to others and pick each other up when we do stumble on this road together. With a culture of belonging, mistakes can become a tool in the learning process. So thank you again, and here's to a wonderfully successful, engaging, and inspiring day 2. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do for campus and beyond. And I'll turn the microphone back to Dr. Charleston.
Thank you, Provost Scholz, for that message. You know, when we talk about the progress we've made and we're making, it's not to be bodacious because clearly we have a long way to go. But it is important to recognize that we are making progress, and without the recognition that we are, we sort of get stuck in where we have been, and that story doesn't get told, right? And so people, not only within the institution, but outside the institution, our communities, our friends, our alumni, are not aware that we are indeed making progress because many of them have expressed their disappointment with the lack of progress. And so, again, it's not to brag, but it's important that we all know that we are inching, and a lot of that's due to everyone in this room and people from around campus. So I'm grateful to have campus partners who believe in this work and who are working daily to ensure that we have equitable and inclusive working and learning environments that are characterized by a sense of belonging. So thank you all for your work in this area. We would also like to thank the Division of the Arts under the leadership of Professor Chris Walker, who are the sponsors of this next session that we're about to go into. But before we move forward with our campus and community panel discussion around the arts, I would like us to take a moment to think about what makes a community a community. Much of it is the ties that we have with people and places. So what is it that makes these community ties possible? One undeniable aspect that lives in every community is art. Art evokes emotion, it tells a story, it has a unique ability to connect us all across differences. Recall some of the most trying times our nation has faced, times of war, times of protest, times of unrest. Music, murals, and other forms of art are often instrumental in conveying the narrative of what is happening, and in some cases, better than words ever could. Several cultures use art as a way of healing or to channel their ancestors, again, to provoke and promote and evoke healing. I happened to be in Mexico for a conference a couple of weeks ago and was reminded that in Latinx cultures, the most familiar symbols of Dia de los Muertos are calacas and calaveras, are skeletons and skulls, which appear everywhere during the holiday in candied sweets, parade masks, and as sculptured art. Just as art can be representative of pain, it can also depict transformation. In African American culture, the Harlem Renaissance is exemplary of transition. The Harlem Renaissance inspired new ways of artists from literary to performing and laid critical groundwork for the civil rights movement and the Black arts movement. So as we conduct this campus and community panel discussion, I encourage you to keep the impact of art and activism at the forefront of your thinking and how it connects to this year's theme. I would also like to once again note that Meaningful Marks is doing visual note-taking as a way to tell the story of the Diversity Forum in art form, and it's over here in the corner here. I mentioned yesterday how looking at the art on the first poster literally gave me chills. So if you had not had an opportunity before you leave this place, go check that out.